Welcome to another episode of BeingLab. I am Gonzalo Cordova, happy to host this second season for you and the BeingLab podcast. Today's episode is titled What the Body Screams When Emotions Are Silent. And this is, again, another episode that we're going to talk about the emotional domain, the emotional world, as I call it. If you've been following this second season, you've noticed the trend, and the trend is to talk about the emotional domain along with other components like language, culture, and all those things that makes us human. In this particular occasion, we're going to try to make very clear the connection of emotions and our bodies. So here we go. The emotional domain is a topic that we've talked many times throughout this season and in previous seasons too. And I consider it important to talk about it because it's so transcendent and so critical for human life. But let's begin by briefly remember what's the main concept of emotion. The word emotion comes from Latin, and it means to set in motion. The word in Latin is motionare, which is literally a predisposition to move, to act. So given that predisposes us to a particular way of moving, that's really critical because it allows you to understand how we move in certain events or circumstances throughout life. For instance, if we witness a situation full of danger where we assess that our life is at risk, generally speaking, we experience fear. Here, in this example, the assessment or the opinion that I have triggers danger. And the interesting thing is that any other person could experience a different emotion given the chance that their assessment of that event is different. So how is it that some people feel fear and others feel joy or anger? So what happens within us, inside of us, when someone gets angry while other remains calm? To explore those ideas in depth, I invite you truly to go back and listen to the first episodes of this second season, where you will find a more in-depth explanation of that connection. Going back to the show, the central or the main idea of this conversations is to remember the importance and transcendence of the emotional domain. So we need to take a look at where are the emotions contained? What's the vessel where emotions are kept? And it is so obvious, but we forget that the place where they are all contained is our body. And we need to give a conscious look and an aware look at the bodily domain as means to break that invisible veil that contains everything we live. Let's understand that the only way in which we can experience life as we know it in this physical plane is by having a body. If you do not have a body, then you are somewhere else. I don't want to make this a topic of debate, but life does not occur or happen there. It happens here and inside ourselves, in our minds, in our bodies, in our organs, as we go through the motions and challenges or joys in life. So your life happens in the body that you inhabit. Within our body, we then experiment and experience absolutely everything. Everything we perceived goes through our bodies. We can imagine that our body is like a sponge by which through life filters, right? And all the circumstances that we experience through the emotional domain, through language, and other domains like our culture, our religion, or spirituality, it is through all those that we label or assess how a situation that could be extremely negative could be something really pleasant, or vice versa. That depends only upon us. That is the relationship that we've developed with our bodies. So everything that happens through, from, and within the body. So a lot of people may say, well, that sounds great, but what about our minds? Well, the mind, our thoughts are also within us, right? They're part of our body. So sometimes we try to disconnect them and think that our minds are out there somewhere, but all the source is contained here. So we are integrated in this suit, right? This bodily suit, this astronaut, cosmonaut suit that is integrated by organs, bones, and muscles. But at the end, it is a suit, and it's the suit that contains all those things that I've mentioned. Now, let's try to connect the experiences from the emotional world with the body world, the body domain. Let's understand that every single emotion has a breathing pattern, as well as a gesture pattern and a disposition, right? A body posture. All of them, more than 200, absolutely every single one, have their own choreography. And when we see happiness and a body, those movements and those gestures and those breathing patterns are typically congruent with happiness. If all of a sudden we see someone frowning, really tense, with their fists harshly like this, making a fist, sweating profoundly, profusely, with their eyes like you think they're going to throw fire, or fire is going to come out, and yelling, right, about to hit us, well, it will be extremely weird, strange to think that that person is happy. We all know that those patterns, that choreography, belongs to anger, to rage. So all the things that I just mentioned, we all humans have the ability to distinguish at first sight, on plain sight, those emotions. It is fantastic to understand that at least 5 emotions, sometimes 6, we can just by seeing someone, we know in which emotion they are. So although we have the ability to be flexible and move, sometimes we try to hack the system thinking that they don't know that we are angry and we say we're happy, but we're all seeing otherwise, right? That happens too. People who try to pretend they're extremely excited when we know they're sad. People that we see they're having a lot of fun, and sometimes they say, no, I'm angry. Well, your face is showing something else, and that's congruency. So all that happens in our bodies, within. It's cooking all the time inside of us. And it's big wisdom. Our bodies are going to find ways to express whatever emotions we're experiencing, whether it's anger, frustration, happiness, sadness, regardless of the emotion that visits us. Even when we do everything to repress or to transform them, our bodies are going to find the way to expel, to share those things. It's going to happen one way or another. And let me give you a few examples. One is when we've carried sadness for a long time and we've done whatever it takes to repress or contain that sadness, there's going to be a point where we're going to be watching TV and a touchy ad comes up, and we're going to start crying. And we've seen that. What's going on? It's not truly the ad. The ad is just a trigger. But what's behind is all the repressed sadness that was looking for ways to come out, like a river finally meeting the ocean, right? So, like we said before, our bodies are always finding ways, space to express, to extend, to show. That's our nature. When we understand this, it's so precious because we need to find healthy ways to express our emotions. It's better to hit a punching bag than something or someone else. It's good for our health. It's good for our mental health. And it's also more congruent with what we're trying to create as conscious people. Many times in our emotional domain, we don't have a body that tends to the messages or that has developed the ability to capture and understand what's happening. And sometimes this type of body develops pain, aches, or even sicknesses or illnesses. We've heard a lot of people that go through worriness or tension, they are more prone to headaches or even dental issues. This all makes perfect sense because given that we've not given the opportunity to our bodies to express or find avenues to take all that out, frustration, lack of attention is going to find a way to burst. So this is a short episode because what I want you to walk away with from this experience, from this session, from this episode, is 3 clear ways or possibilities to begin to nurture what's happening when your emotions are apparently in silence, but your body is truly wanting to explode. Do not get to that point. Please reach out. One of the things that I love the most is to work with the emotional domain, with executives or anyone who's willing to dive into that phenomenal ocean. It's really deep, but when we understand that depth gives us meaning and meaning helps us create congruency, we truly dive into. So hopefully you'll reach out to learn that. So before saying goodbye, let me share with you three ideas, practical ideas that are going to help you develop a new sense of how to cope and take care of the challenges that life throws at us. We are all prone to that. The first one is recognize if you don't know, if you have no clue of the emotional domain, learn. The only way in which we're going to learn is when we dare to say, I don't know. You may know 1 or 2 emotions and you oscillate like a pendulum between them, anger and happiness. And then what happens to the other 190 something emotions? You're missing a phenomenal opportunity to create other realities. Realities are created through language and emotions. And so you're missing a lot of colors on that palette. So a quick and deep way to transform our relationship with ourselves in the world is through the emotional domain. Of course, the linguistic portion is going to be critical. All that is going to go through our bodies, and it's going to show. A body that is congruent can show congruency. A body that is not congruent is going to show also certain postures, certain gestures, or things we're going to experience that are not going to make sense. We can see it in others, and people can see it as well, although we try to repress that. The second idea is once you get familiar with the emotional domain, learn to take pulse and listen to the message of every single emotion. First, we need to learn the emotions, right? And once we hone that, once we learn that, we need to develop a clinical ear and a critical ear for what's the message. And why is this important? This is really critical because the only way in which you can responsibly take care of that emotion is when you're consciously aware of the message that the emotion is sending you. If you don't know, it's like reading a language that you don't know. You're not going to be able to read the text or reply to the text or the email or answer the phone. Once you understand the language, you can decode, therefore take care of. Okay, so that's number 2. And number 3 is develop a congruency between what you say, you think, and you embody. So it's what you say, what you think, what you feel, and what you embody. I was missing one before. So that's truly the dynamic congruency that we're trying to develop as human beings who are willing to be present and aware and attentive. And it's easier said than done. But this is the source of that dynamic congruency that allows us to take care of challenging situations without losing it, right? That's what we say, commonly, don't lose it. Take a deep breath. There are ways to take care of challenging times and things when you develop that. So let me know your thoughts about this episode. I tried to make it really, really simple and as fast and to the point as possible so that we can engage in conversation. Remember, the only way in which I can tell this is working or not is with your questions, your comments, and suggestions. If there's something about the emotional domain that you want me to talk about, or a specific emotion that you want me to go in depth, please let me know. Send me your comments. And by the way, do not forget to subscribe and rate the show. This allows us to reach to more wonderful people like you. Thank you very much for listening. See you next time. Take care. Thank you for listening, BeingLab. You can follow me on social media at Gonzalo Cordova. Please like and follow, and thank you for being here.